Introduction. For more than 2,000 years, the Thirukural has stood as one of humanity's purest guides to righteous living. Written by the poet sage Thirukural, its 1,330 couplets offer timeless wisdom on virtue, wealth, and love. The truths that remain as relevant today as they were in ancient Tamil civilization. Thirukural is divided into three fundamental sections that represent the complete journey of human life. 1. Aram. Virtue, moral living. Focuses on character, ethics, discipline, compassion, and righteous conduct. 2. Paul. Wealth, governance and leadership. Explains how to build a good society, manage resources, govern with justice, and achieve success honorably. 3. Inbom. Love, human emotions. Explores the beauty, complexity, and depth of love, internal and interpersonal. Section. Aram. Virtue. The Aram section serves as the ethical cornerstone of the Thirukural, guiding individuals towards a life of righteousness, purity, and social harmony. It covers personal conduct, family responsibilities, and civic duties, establishing the foundational virtues necessary for a fulfilling existence. The first 20 chapters already covered in last video. Please watch in the link in description to follow. Chapter 21. Fear of evil deeds. This chapter instills a deep sense of aversion to committing evil acts, emphasizing that the fear of causing harm and its subsequent consequences should deter individuals from wrongdoing. It highlights karma and moral responsibility. Verse 201. Saying, "Fear evil deeds, for they follow like a shadow." Meaning, one should deeply fear committing evil actions, as their negative consequences will inevitably follow like an inescapable shadow. Verse 202. Saying, "The fruit of evil deeds is bitter, shun them always." Meaning, the ultimate outcome and experience derived from committing evil deeds are bitter and painful. Therefore, one should always avoid them. Verse 203. Saying, "Do not commit evil, even if it seems profitable." Meaning, one should never engage in evil actions, even if such actions appear to offer immediate or significant material gain. Verse 204. Saying, "The evil one will suffer, even if unseen by others." Meaning, an individual who commits evil deeds will inevitably experience suffering, even if their transgressions remain unobserved by others. Verse 205. Saying, "He who fears evil acts protects himself from future harm." Meaning, a person who harbors a genuine fear of committing evil actions effectively safeguards themselves from future harm and negative consequences. Verse 206. Saying, "The wise never commit evil, knowing its destructive nature." Meaning, individuals who are truly wise and discerning never engage in evil deeds, fully understanding their inherently destructive nature. Verse 207. Saying, "To fear evil is to gain inner peace and freedom." Meaning, cultivating a healthy fear of committing evil acts leads to the attainment of inner peace and freedom from moral burden. Verse 208. Saying, "The evil deed may be hidden, but its effects will manifest." Meaning, while an evil deed may be concealed from human eyes, its repercussions and negative effects will inevitably become manifest. Verse 209. Saying, "Avoid evil as you would a deadly serpent." Meaning, one should shun and avoid evil acts with the same intense caution and urgency one would apply to a deadly serpent. Verse 210. Saying, "The righteous never commit evil, even in thought." Meaning, individuals who are truly righteous and virtuous never engage in evil, not even in their innermost thoughts or intentions. Chapter 22. Knowing one's duty to society. This chapter highlights the virtue of social responsibility and beneficence, emphasizing that individuals should understand their obligations to society and contribute to the well-being of others, particularly the less fortunate. Verse 211, saying, knowing one's duty to society is true wealth. Meaning, understanding and fulfilling one's obligations and responsibilities towards society is considered a profound and true form of wealth. Verse 212, saying, the wealth of a benevolent person is for the good of all. Meaning, the material wealth and resources possessed by a benevolent individual are intended for the welfare and benefit of all members of society. Verse 213, saying, he who knows his social duty gives joy to all. Meaning, a person who truly comprehends and acts upon their social duty brings happiness and contentment to everyone around them. Verse 214, saying, the world survives by those who uphold social duty. Meaning, the continued existence and harmony of the world are sustained by those individuals who conscientiously uphold their social responsibilities. Verse 215, saying, to possess wealth and not use it for others is a curse. Meaning, to possess wealth and deliberately refrain from using it for the benefit of others is considered a moral curse rather than a blessing. Verse 216, saying, the benevolent heart is never troubled by loss. Meaning, a heart that is consistently benevolent and generous towards society is never deeply troubled by personal loss or misfortune. Verse 217, saying, give with cheerfulness, that is the essence of social duty. Meaning, the core essence of fulfilling one's social duty lies in giving generously and cheerfully to those in need. Verse 218, saying, to share with the needy is to share with God. Meaning, the act of sharing one's resources with those who are in need is considered equivalent to sharing with the divine itself. Verse 219, saying, the wise use their wealth to serve society, not for self. Meaning, individuals who are truly wise employ their wealth and resources for the betterment of society, rather than merely for personal gain. Verse 220, saying, the benevolent one's life is a blessing to the earth. Meaning, the life of a benevolent individual, who understands and fulfills their social duties, is a true blessing to the entire world. Chapter 23. Giving. This chapter underscores the virtue of selfless giving, distinguishing it from mere charity and emphasizing that true giving is done without expectation of return, purely out of compassion for the needy. Verse 221, saying, true giving is helping the needy, not those who can repay. Meaning, genuine giving involves extending help to those who are truly in need, rather than to those who have the capacity to repay the favor. Verse 222, saying, the act of giving is superior to all other virtues. Meaning, the virtue of giving, performed selflessly, is considered to be of higher merit and importance than all other virtuous acts. Verse 223, saying, do not wait for others to ask, give before they do. Meaning, one should not delay until others explicitly ask for help, rather, one should proactively offer assistance before being asked. Verse 224, saying, even if one is poor, one should give to the truly needy. Meaning, even in circumstances of personal poverty, an individual should still strive to give whatever little they can to those who are genuinely in dire need. Verse 225, saying, to give to the hungry is to sow seeds of virtue. Meaning, the act of providing food to the hungry is akin to sowing valuable seeds of virtue, which will yield positive spiritual fruits. Verse 226, saying, better to give than to hoard, which brings no joy. Meaning, it is far more virtuous and brings greater fulfillment to give generously than to hoard wealth, which ultimately brings no real joy. Verse 227, saying, the hand that gives is holier than the hand that takes. Meaning, the hand that extends generosity and gives to others is considered more sacred and virtuous than the hand that merely receives. Verse 228. Saying, the truly generous find joy in every act of giving. Meaning, individuals who are genuinely generous experience profound joy and satisfaction in every single act of giving they perform. Verse 229. Saying, to deny help to a supplicant is to deny one's own humanity. Meaning, refusing help to someone who earnestly seeks it is tantamount to denying one's fundamental human compassion and virtue. Verse 230. Saying, the benevolent giver is revered even by the gods. Meaning, a benevolent and generous giver, who offers help selflessly, earns reverence and respect even from divine beings. Chapter 24. Fame. This chapter explores the nature of true fame, distinguishing it from fleeting notoriety. It asserts that lasting fame is earned through virtuous deeds, selfless service, and a life dedicated to the welfare of others, making it a reflection of inner excellence. Verse 231. Saying, fame comes from noble deeds, all else is mere notoriety. Meaning, true and lasting fame is earned through the performance of noble and virtuous actions. Any other form of recognition is merely fleeting notoriety. Verse 232. Saying, to live a life of virtue is to gain immortal fame. Meaning, living a life consistently guided by virtue and righteousness leads to the attainment of immortal fame that transcends generations. Verse 233. Saying, the truly famous are those who serve humanity. Meaning, individuals who are genuinely celebrated and famous are those who dedicate their lives to serving the welfare and betterment of humanity. Verse 234. Saying, fame is the lamp that lights the world, its absence is darkness. Meaning, fame, when earned through virtuous deeds, acts as a guiding light that illuminates the world. Its absence leaves darkness. Verse 235. Saying, what value is life without a legacy of good deeds? Meaning, what true value or purpose does a life hold if it does not leave behind a legacy of virtuous actions and good deeds? Verse 236. Saying, the world remembers those who live for others' good. Meaning, the world eternally remembers and honors those individuals who dedicate their existence to promoting the well-being and good of others. Verse 237. Saying, fame is a crown that adorns the head of the virtuous. Meaning, true fame, earned through moral excellence, is like a regal crown that adorns the head of the virtuous person. Verse 238. Saying, to seek fame without virtue is a foolish endeavor. Meaning, the pursuit of fame without a foundation of virtue and righteous conduct is a misguided and ultimately foolish undertaking. Verse 239. Saying, the memory of the virtuous endures even after death. Meaning, the legacy and memory of individuals who lived virtuous lives persist and endure long after their physical passing. Verse 240. Saying, fame that springs from virtue is eternal and glorious. Meaning, fame that has its origin and basis in virtue is characterized by its eternal nature and glorious splendor. Chapter 25. Possessing compassion. This chapter elevates compassion as a cardinal virtue, defining it as the heartfelt empathy and kindness towards all living beings. It asserts that compassion is a divine quality, essential for true humanity and spiritual liberation. Verse 241. Saying, compassion is the wealth of the soul, it should never be forsaken. Meaning, compassion is the invaluable treasure of the soul, and under no circumstances should it ever be abandoned or neglected. Verse 242. Saying, the heart that lacks compassion is a barren wasteland. Meaning, a human heart that is devoid of compassion is likened to a desolate and barren wasteland. incapable of nurturing life or joy. Verse 243, saying, compassion is the root of all virtues, all others spring from it. Meaning, compassion serves as the fundamental root from which all other virtues originate and derive their essence. Verse 244, saying, he who shows compassion is honored by all creation. Meaning, an individual who consistently demonstrates compassion towards others earns the respect and honor of all living beings in creation. Verse 245, saying, the life of the compassionate is blessed with peace. Meaning, the life led by a compassionate person is inherently blessed with profound inner peace and contentment. Verse 246, saying, to possess compassion is to possess divine grace. Meaning, the presence of compassion within an individual signifies that they are endowed with divine grace and spiritual blessings. Verse 247, saying, the compassionate heart knows no sorrow or fear. Meaning, a heart filled with compassion is liberated from the burdens of sorrow and the pangs of fear. Verse 248, saying, compassion is the light that dispels the darkness of ignorance. Meaning, compassion acts as a radiant light that effectively dispels the shadows of ignorance and unkindness. Verse 249, saying, to deny compassion is to deny one's own humanity. Meaning, the act of withholding or denying compassion to others is tantamount to denying one's fundamental human essence and moral duty. Verse 250, saying, the compassionate attain liberation and eternal bliss. Meaning, those who cultivate and practice compassion ultimately achieve spiritual liberation and experience eternal bliss. Chapter 26, Abstinence from Flesh. This chapter strongly advocates for vegetarianism, condemning the consumption of meat due to the suffering inflicted upon animals. It links abstinence from flesh to the virtues of compassion and non-violence. Verse 251, saying, how can he possess compassion who eats the flesh of other beings? Meaning, how can an individual truly claim to possess compassion when they consume the flesh of other living creatures? Verse 252, saying, he who takes a life to feed himself lacks all virtue. Meaning, a person who takes the life of another being solely to feed themselves is deemed to be utterly devoid of any true virtue. Verse 253, saying, the non-eater of flesh is revered as a sage among men. Meaning, an individual who abstains from consuming flesh is held in high esteem and revered as a sage among humankind. Verse 254, saying, to refrain from killing is virtue, to refrain from eating flesh is more. Meaning, while refraining from killing is a virtue, the act of abstaining from eating flesh is considered an even higher moral accomplishment. Verse 255, saying, the compassionate heart shuns the killing of all life. Meaning, a heart that is truly compassionate inherently recoils from and avoids the act of taking any form of life. Verse 256, saying, no good comes from killing, no evil from not killing. Meaning, no positive outcome or virtue can arise from the act of killing, just as no evil can stem from refraining from killing. Verse 257, saying, he who gives life to all beings finds a home in heaven. Meaning, an individual who strives to preserve and give life to all beings is destined to find a blessed place in the heavens. Verse 258, saying, the knife that slays brings sorrow, the hand that protects brings joy. Meaning, the instrument used to take a life brings sorrow, while the hand that extends protection brings joy and peace. Verse 259, saying, to sacrifice for life is noble, to take life for food is base. Meaning, to make a sacrifice for the preservation of life is noble, but to take life for the purpose of consuming its flesh is morally base. Verse 260, saying, the eating of flesh is against the law of compassion. Meaning, the consumption of flesh is fundamentally contrary to and violates the sacred law of compassion towards all living beings. Chapter 27. Penance. This chapter defines penance not merely as physical austerity but as the practice of self-restraint and spiritual discipline aimed at attaining profound wisdom and ultimate liberation. It distinguishes true penance from mere outward show. Verse 261. Saying, penance is self-control, others practice a different path. Meaning, true penance is essentially the practice of rigorous self-control. What others engage in is a different path, not necessarily leading to the same spiritual goal. Verse 262. Saying, the strength of penance overcomes all obstacles. Meaning, the spiritual power cultivated through genuine penance is capable of surmounting every kind of obstacle and difficulty. Verse 263. Saying, penance leads to greatness, its absence leads to degradation. Meaning, the consistent practice of penance guides one towards spiritual greatness, while its neglect results in moral and spiritual degradation. Verse 264. Saying, the ascetic whose soul is purified blesses the world. Meaning, an ascetic whose soul has been purified through rigorous penance bestows blessings upon the entire world. Verse 265. Saying, to endure hardships for penance is to store up virtue. Meaning, willfully enduring difficulties and hardships for the sake of spiritual penance is an act that accumulates immense virtue. Verse 266. Saying, the true ascetic cares for all life, never causing harm. Meaning, a genuine ascetic extends care and protection to all forms of life, consistently refraining from causing any harm. Verse 267. Saying, penance is the fire that burns away all impurities. Meaning, penance is likened to a purifying fire that effectively consumes and eliminates all spiritual and moral impurities. Verse 268. Saying, the ascetic's power comes from unwavering discipline. Meaning, the spiritual power and authority of an ascetic are derived from their steadfast and unwavering self-discipline. Verse 269. Saying, only the ascetic truly knows the path to liberation. Meaning, it is only the genuine ascetic, through their practice of penance, who truly comprehends the path leading to spiritual liberation. Verse 270. Saying, the fruits of penance are eternal and beyond compare. Meaning, the spiritual rewards and fruits reaped from the practice of penance are eternal in nature and surpass any other form of achievement. Chapter 28. Imposture, hypocrisy. This chapter strongly condemns hypocrisy and imposture, particularly in the guise of religious or spiritual piety. It warns against deceiving others through false appearances and emphasizes the importance of sincerity and inner purity over outward show. Verse 271. Saying, a mind that deceives with false virtue is an enemy to itself. Meaning, a mind that attempts to deceive others by projecting a false image of virtue is ultimately acting as its own worst enemy. Verse 272. Saying, he who pretends to be virtuous while harboring evil is a fraud. Meaning, an individual who outwardly feigns virtuous conduct while inwardly nurturing evil intentions is nothing but a deceitful fraud. Verse 273. Saying, the pretense of piety is a cloak for hidden wickedness. Meaning, the outward show of religious or spiritual piety often serves as a disguise or a cloak for underlying and concealed wickedness. Verse 274. Saying, even if one lives in a holy garb, if the heart is impure, it is useless. Meaning, even if a person lives clad in sacred attire, their spiritual efforts are futile if their heart remains impure and insincere. Verse 275. Saying, the hypocrite's actions bring ruin, though they seem righteous. Meaning, the actions performed by a hypocrite, despite their outwardly righteous appearance, inevitably lead to ruin and moral downfall. Verse 276. Saying, to deceive others with false piety is the worst form of theft. Meaning, deceiving others through a facade of false piety is considered a more grievous offense than even physical theft. Verse 277. Saying, the world despises those who practice hidden evil. Meaning, society inherently despises and rejects those individuals who secretly engage in evil while projecting a virtuous image. Verse 278. Saying, sincerity is the true ornament, hypocrisy is a blight. Meaning, sincerity and genuine intention are the true adornments of a person, whereas hypocrisy is a corrupting blight. Verse 279. Saying, the hypocrite eventually exposes their own falsehood. Meaning, despite their efforts to conceal it, a hypocrite will, in due course, reveal their own deceit and falsehood. Verse 280. Saying, only inner purity leads to true peace, not outward show. Meaning, genuine inner purity and sincerity are the sole paths to lasting peace and contentment, not superficial outward displays. Chapter 29. Not committing theft. This chapter explicitly condemns theft in all its forms, emphasizing that taking what does not belong to one, whether by force or deception, is a grave sin that leads to moral decay and loss of integrity. Verse 281. Saying, do not steal, it brings ruin and eternal shame. Meaning, one must never engage in theft, as it inevitably leads to personal ruin and everlasting shame. Verse 282. Saying, the stolen wealth brings no joy, it is a burden. Meaning, any wealth acquired through theft brings no true happiness or contentment, instead, it becomes a heavy burden. Verse 283. Saying, he who steals loses honor and all good qualities. Meaning, an individual who commits theft forfeits their honor and sacrifices all their good moral qualities. Verse 284. Saying, even if theft brings profit, it will eventually destroy. Meaning, even if theft appears to yield immediate profit, it will ultimately lead to destruction and downfall. Verse 285. Saying, the thief's mind is never at peace, always fearful. Meaning, the mind of a thief is never truly at peace, constantly plagued by fear and anxiety. Verse 286. Saying, to refrain from theft is to earn respect from all. Meaning, consistently abstaining from the act of theft earns one the respect and regard of everyone in society. Verse 287. Saying, the righteous never steal, even in their thoughts. Meaning, individuals who are truly righteous and virtuous never contemplate theft, not even in their innermost thoughts. Verse 288. Saying, the world despises the thief, rejecting their presence. Meaning, society universally despises and rejects the presence of a thief, holding them in contempt. Verse 289. Saying, the wealth gained by theft is a poison that corrupts. Meaning, wealth that is acquired through theft is likened to a poison that corrupts both the individual and their life. Verse 290. Saying, only the pure heart is free from the stain of theft. Meaning, it is only a heart that is truly pure and unblemished that remains entirely free from the defiling stain of theft. Chapter 30. Not deceiving. This chapter focuses on the virtue of truthfulness and sincerity, condemning deceit and falsehood. It asserts that honesty in word and deed is a cornerstone of moral character, essential for trust and integrity. Verse 291. Saying, truthfulness is to speak words that cause no harm. Meaning, true truthfulness lies in speaking words that are utterly devoid of any intention or capacity to cause harm to others. Verse 292. Saying, better silence than a lie, however small it seems. Meaning, it is morally superior and preferable to remain silent rather than to utter a lie, regardless of how insignificant it may appear. Verse 293. Saying, the truthful heart is revered by all, even by gods. Meaning, a heart that is consistently truthful and sincere earns reverence from all beings, including divine entities. Verse 294. Saying, truth is the lamp that guides one through all darkness. Meaning, truth serves as a guiding light that effectively dispels all forms of darkness, leading one through life's challenges. Verse 295. Saying, to speak truth is to possess the greatest virtue. Meaning, the act of consistently speaking the truth is tantamount to possessing the most exalted and profound virtue. Verse 296. Saying, the truthful man's words carry power and conviction. Meaning, the words uttered by a truthful individual possess inherent power and conviction, inspiring trust and belief. Verse 297. Saying, sincerity in speech brings peace to the listener. Meaning, sincerity and honesty in one's speech bring a sense of peace and reassurance to the person who is listening. Verse 298. Saying, the liar loses trust, no one believes their words. Meaning, an individual who habitually lies forfeits the trust of others, leading to a situation where their words are no longer believed. Verse 299. Saying, to speak truth, even when difficult, is noble. Meaning, to utter the truth, even when doing so presents significant challenges or discomfort, is an act of profound nobility. Verse 300. Saying, truth is the essence of piety, all else is mere show. Meaning, truthfulness is the fundamental essence of true piety and spiritual devotion. All other outward displays are superficial. Thank you, and please wait for the next chapters of the words of wisdom from Thirukural.